This is the second part of Note 7-1. I hope you were all able to finish page 424, numbers 1, 2, and 7 before you watch this. I think that you'll find it extremely difficult to do this or understand this if you haven't already had some practice. So please go finish that up before you watch this if you haven't done it already. You see all the fractions and you panic a little. You can solve these exactly the way they are, but there isn't any need to work that hard. You can clean up the mess using the lowest common denominator for both equations and have something much more pleasant to work with. Fractions aren't anything to be afraid of, but you want to work effectively with them. Now in the case of equation number 1, you have the denominator 2 and 3, so the lowest common denominator is 6, and you have to multiply every term by 6. In equation number 2, you have 4, 3, and 2. The lowest common denominator is not 24, it's 12. 2 goes into 12 evenly. You cancel, so you have 3x. 3 goes into 6 twice, so you have 4y, and 6 times 1 is 6. Now be careful here. Now you have 3x. You have negative 4y, and 6 times 5 is 30. So that's how we rearranged it to something we would prefer to use. Now I'm going to take equation number 1, and I'm going to isolate the x. You could do any one of them. I just chose this one because it's the one I want to do. I like 3 and 6. So I subtracted 4y from both sides. I'm going to divide everything by 3, and I get x equals negative 4/3 y plus 2. You can't write 3 repeating. You can't put 1 1/3. You can't put 1.3 for this. You have to be accurate. So if you're going to be accurate, you're going to have to use 4/3. I'm going to take the second equation, which now, because we cleaned it up, is 3x minus 4y equal to 30. And I'm going to substitute in what we believe x is. And I end up with 3 times negative 4 over 3y plus 2 minus 4y equals 30. Now, 3 times 4/3, the 3's would cancel, and you end up with negative 4y. Simple as that. 3 times 2 is positive 6. And then you have your negative 4y and 30. That means you have negative 8y plus 6 equal to 30. Subtract 6 from both sides. Negative 8y equals 24. Divide both sides by negative 8. And y equals negative 3. Now I don't have room to do the next one right beside it. So after figuring out what y is, I'm going to go back to the other equation and substitute what I think y is for y. And it's really important to number your equations so that you know which one you're working with. I'm not talking about this too much because I'm just doing algebra that you know how to do. So my solution is 6 and negative 3. Now you're going to have to go back to the very original equation. You cannot check this in your rearranged equations. You can't check them in the ones you cleaned up. If you do that and you made a mistake cleaning them up, then you will think you're right, but you won't be. So we're going to go 1/2 times 6 plus 2/3 times negative 3, and we're going to hope that we get 1. 2 goes into 6 3 times. The 3's cancel. Don't miss the negative sign. And you get 1. So you're good there. 1/4 times 6 minus 1/3 times -3. And we're hoping to get 5/2. That would be 3 and 2. So I have 3.5. The 3's cancel. Negative times negative plus 1. Well, 1 is equal to 2 over 2. So I have 5/2. And you didn't see much of that, so I'm going to move it up and say it again. 2 goes into 4 twice and into 6 3 times. So you had 3 over 2 because I canceled the common factors. Negative times a negative is a positive. The 3's cancel, so I had 1. 1, 2 over 2. So 3 plus 2 is 5. So you've got 5/2. So it worked. Now we're going to try another one, slightly more complicated. Doing this sort of thing works with decimals too. If you have a lot of decimals, you can multiply by 10 or 100 to clean up the mess. And we've done that in lots of questions before. So here's E. And we're only doing 2 examples today. And there's equation 1 and equation 2. And we're going to clean up the mess. And the lowest common denominator is 6. Now here's where it's going to be a bit tricky. That's 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 times x and 3 times negative x. So you get 3x minus 9. Now watch this. That's a 2, but it's a negative 2. So you have negative 2y. Negative 2 times negative 5 plus 10. That's why I like being able to videotape this so that you can see where these things came from. So I have 3x minus 2y plus 1 equals 6. So 3x minus 2y equals 5. For the other one, don't forget it's a big fraction. There we go. In equation number 2, the lowest common denominator is 4. And the most common thing for people to do is to forget to multiply the 1 by the 4. That's the biggest mistake I see. At 2, so 2x plus 6, the 4's cancel, so plus y minus 3, 2x plus y plus 3 equals 4, 2x plus y equals 1. And now that you've done that, you can choose one of them to isolate. And I'm not going to choose equation number 1 because look at this, you've got a y all by itself. So I'm going to rearrange that. And I'm going to make it y equals negative 2x plus 1. I'm not going to forget the 1. Then I'm going to go back to equation number 1. This was number 2. Sorry, guys. I usually do 1. 3x minus 2y equals 5. That's equation number 1. We think y is negative 2x plus 1. This is what we think it is, and we're going to substitute it right in there. 3x, now be careful. Negative times a negative, positive 4x, negative times a positive, negative 2, 5. 7x minus 2 equals 5. Add 2 to both times, 7x equals 7. Divide both sides by 7, x equals 1. And now take that 1, and you can use either equation you want. I'm going to use equation number 2 because I like to go 1, 2, 1, 2. I just keep going back and forth. 2 times 1 plus y equals 1. 2 plus y equals 1. Subtract 2 from both sides and y equals negative 1. So your solution is 1 and negative 1. Now for the check. This is not as easy. You go back to your original equations, which happen to be x minus 3 over 2 minus y minus 5 over 3 equals 1. X is 1. Y is negative 1. That's negative 2 over 2. That's, oh, I put 6 there, it's a 5. That's a negative 6 over negative 3. Negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3, and it didn't match. Well, that's just the pits. Let's see if it matched in the other one and if I just did something strangely wrong. X plus 3 over 2 minus y minus 5 over minus 3. This is not going well, but we're going to keep going. Over 4, and it has to be equal to 1 also. If I try positive 1 for x and negative 1 for y, and I know what I did wrong in the other one, guys, so it's going to be okay. 4 over 2 minus negative 4 over 4, so that's 2 minus negative 1. So that's 2 plus 1, and that's 3. And it's also wrong, because this was a plus sign. So that's 1 incorrect. And in this case, you see this little mess here? That was not a negative. That was a positive 3, which means that was take away negative 2, which is negative 1 plus 2, which is 1. So they both worked. Now here's the thing about that. Always double check your check before you assume your answer was wrong. And that's a good lesson. And that's done for now. You need to do the rest of page 424. And I'm going to turn this over because I think that's where I have it. Yeah, 424, number 4. And 8, A, B, and D. And you can choose anything else off those pages that you want to try, but those are the ones I'm assigning. So you now have, I think, 4 questions in number 4 and then number 8 to do. And that's an end for 7-1 part 2. Bye.